how I'm going to read this.
Totally.
Hello. Are we on here?
Okay, we are live on YouTube.
Hi.
And we're also live on Instagram. Okay, we are doing it. We're setting up.
Hey.
Okay. People.
Hi, guys.
All right, we already got some folks jumping
so
on.
So excited to see you guys.
Hey, it's time for another update. We're in Bangkok now, so we've been traveling around Thailand for 4 months.
Yes.
Yeah, and at this point we're in Bangkok from Phuket, and we're waiting now to get our approval to go back to our home in China. We can't wait to do that. Okay, we have.
We are going live with an amazing speaker today. I'm just, I'm so excited. Nervous. Hi, Bianca.
Hi.
Oh, great. Oh, we can hear you. Awesome.
So.
Can you guys see me? Okay.
Yeah. We're like split screen with you.
Okay.
Like I told you already, Bianca, we're also live with our YouTube, but it's just going to be audio only.
Okay.
For YouTube, they can really only see us, but that hopefully is enough to see us, and also to hear you. So thanks for joining us. We're just gonna take a couple of minutes to give some updates.
Great.
You know what's kind of happening today. People that are joining on, which we already see a big old string of people. This is great. Hello, everyone. So like I said, we're in Bangkok. One of the things that in our travels we're really excited about is being able to continue to make art. We just started a Patreon campaign and have gathered some supporters to help us continue to make more beauty projects. We just filmed our chakra journey video last week.
And there was 10 people from all over the world. It was amazing. Peru, Brazil, Netherlands, France. It was just unbelievable to be able to, at this time in COVID, to bring people from all over the world together with different viewpoints, different religious beliefs, different sexual orientation, and share the experience of creating something together. And that's actually why we're going live today. This conversation is about empowering communication and legitimizing voices, and especially what's going on within the community right now. And so I think we're just gonna get started because I really want to hear mainly from Bianca. Mm-hmm. She's got so much going on for her. I mean, what an active leader. It's pretty inspiring to see what you're doing, not only in your personal community, but what you're doing in corporations. And I mean, what a game changer. So just before we get into that, I'll just, let you guys know, this isn't really something I normally do. Most of you know me as, Healthy Annie, who's really motivating and let's get ripped and let's stretch. And so I typically separate my social contribution from this platform. But, I saw a quote from someone in the community, my friend Alex Little. She's a choreographer in Los Angeles. She had posted a quote from Martin Luther King, and I'll read it to you because it rocked me. It says, "In the end, we will remember not the words of our enemies, but the silence of our friends." When I saw that, I felt like I wasn't doing enough. I felt like I could watch what was happening in the injustices that are happening in America. I could have just watched it go by, but I thought this isn't enough. I need to do something. I need to be with you guys in America protesting. I need to make a difference. And so I just, this is what's happening in the Black community is so wrong. And it's not just something that happened 60 years ago. It's happening right now. And through numerous conversations with my friends from high school and my friends from Europe and Asia, and my father, who's a Supreme Court justice, and my own family. I mean, I've been having all these conversations that have had me take a serious look at my own underlying white privilege and how I might be contributing to a racist society. Even in a call that I had with Bianca, I got to see that as a white woman who grew up with a father who is politically active, who told me I could be anything I want to be, it gave me the space to say, why can't I speak right now about this issue? And it gave me I realized how privileged I am in that some people don't have that example, or they don't feel like their voice matters. And I just, oh wow, that is mind-blowing to me. So if I want to live in a world that I can be proud of, that my future children can be proud of, then it really starts with me, and I need to be responsible for my social contributions. And that's not just in my health and well-being, but that's actually in what I'm doing on this platform with you guys, what we're doing as a community to be active in the world in a way that we can keep pushing forward. So, I'm really, really excited to introduce Bianca Wilson. She's the co-founder of Say Space. And, hi, you guys.
We just lost her, I think, though. So we'll get her back in a minute. We've got some introductions to do, so stand by, Bianca.
So just to give you guys a little background about Jones and I, 5 years ago, we created a nonprofit. He was telling you about that, called Art and Action. We've used art events to raise money to support social causes. And we have a really great track record of fundraising and empowering social cause, launching different nonprofit organizations, helping different charities. And if you want support in mentoring, or to look at past events, you can look at www.artandaction.org, or just message me, and I'm happy to share with you a little bit about that. But I'm no longer going to separate that part of my life from you guys, because we're a group of over, this Instagram platform has 20,000, our YouTube has 10,000. We together can make a difference. We together can start a conversation for people. And I just really intend to empower you guys to share any questions you have. Bianca is amazing. And I'm going to be writing down what your questions are, what you want to discuss. And we'll do our best to have that happen today live. So without further ado, I'm going to give the floor to my husband, Jones, and he can introduce Bianca.
Thanks. And yeah, we hope to get her right back on this feed before my introduction is over. So let's try to do that. So yeah, I think all of us has been on a roller coaster with the current events. I definitely have, especially coming off of the COVID-19 wake, and seeing protests and the backlash of police violence from afar. It's been intense, and I can't help but feel a little removed from it all here in Asia. But although Henry and I can't be there in person, we wanted to do what we can from abroad. So that's what this conversation is about. Something I think is important is that this is not just a U.S. specific issue, although it's very heated right now. In our travels, I'm very aware of how pervasive racism is all over the world. Couple of things about that. We met a friend here in Thailand, a woman who was talking to us about her childhood growing up in Thailand, and one of the things that she kept voicing to us now was that women, Thai women in particular, were taught to keep their eyes down when speaking, that their opinions were not important, that their voices should not be heard, young children, women especially, and that the loud European women were like frowned upon by the men of her community, and that's not womanly, and and so even among sexes like that, like I was just shocked, not just to hear of that. Of course, that happens, but that our friend's experience of it was that she didn't even know the difference. She didn't even realize that there was another possible reality until she became an adult, traveled outside the country, and saw those other examples of how women can be, like what it is to have equal rights, and became aware of it only later in her adulthood. And so that became important for me to just realize, okay, things can operate under the radar. Like even I can have a paradigm that I cannot see, that I operate within, and it's really important to just look at that even more closely. What are my blind spots? I need to be extra conscious of not just what I say, but like how I'm thinking. Because then only through conversations like this can we sometimes see the better reality. So that's our intention, and
how we affect each other.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the biggest thing is, we have to take full responsibility for our communication. Even if we think we're doing good things, maybe we're, I was talking to Bianca, and maybe we're re-traumatizing people for things they don't want to talk about. And the sensitivity is a sensitivity that we have to grow in right now. And I see a lot of people educating themselves and posting books and links and signing petitions and doing things right now. And that's super exciting and encouraging. But the goal is to keep this conversation going in a long-term way so that we can have, a community that we want to grow into, which is one that, celebrates and uplifts each other. And that isn't afraid of how it isn't in fear. So without that being said,
we have Bianca back. That's great. Perfect timing. So let me just say a few things about Bianca. We met during a very impactful.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay. I think it might be our internet. In Thailand, the Wi-Fi works 80% of the time, so it's not you. But sorry, continue.
No problem. We have so we have a guest who's a leader from the beginning. We did a program together that we may talk about later if that comes up. But when I first saw her step to the front of the room, it was very clear that this is a natural leader. She really holds herself with a lot of confidence, and that's something I respect a lot. She jumped right into this program, taking on leadership positions in the foreground or in the background, just very easily, just to experience herself as someone who's making a difference. So that is something I started with being impressed by, and now that she's in her life and doing her own business, still impressed with her leadership. She has a company that provides workshops, coaching, and consulting to corporations or organizations to help build thriving, equitable, and inclusive companies who make a positive impact in the world. So that sounds awesome, just that statement. But you're the expert, Bianca. I would love for you to take over and just tell us a little bit more about your company, and we'll just transition into this conversation with you. Okay?
I'm like scared to move too much. So I'm like I can't tell if it's my internet or can y'all hear me?
Yes,
yeah,
we can hear you great.
I know it keeps bumping off.
Can you hear me? You can't hear me?
No, we can.
No, we can. I think even our live stream is bumping people off the feed. It keeps going like 10 people watching, 0 people watching, 20 people watching, because it keeps bumping people off.
Yeah,
so
internet,
it's probably our internet, which maybe we can do something about. Can we put it on the phone network?
Should I?
Yeah, we can hear you fine though. Is the answer?
Question?
Yeah, we can hear you. We can hear you fine, and what's good is that we have it streaming on our YouTube as well. So whether the Instagram connection isn't good or not, it's stable on our YouTube live stream. So so I think we should move forward with the questions, and then if people,
Okay, great.
yeah. Okay, so let's start with the questions.
Oh, it's
Do you guys think that I should try moving to a different location? Because I'm not sure if it's you or me.
Sure.
I'm not sure either. Like just a different location in your home or wherever you are?
Yes.
Okay.
Just a different location in my home.
Okay.
Just let me know if you can hear me better, because it actually might be me. I'm sorry, guys.
It's okay.
But I'm going to talk a little bit more about Safe Space while I get myself resituated here.
Yeah, we'd love to hear about the mission and the vision you have for your company, and what started Safe Space.
Can you guys hear me okay now? Is that better? I'm going to turn some lights on.
Okay. Yeah. I think so.
Okay.
Better or not, we can definitely hear you.
Okay. We're just going to try this, okay? We're rolling with it.
Good.
So Safe Space actually came out of the leadership program that we did, Jones.
Great.
And it came out of me knowing that, so I worked at an ad agency, and it was a very prominent ad agency. It was the ad agency for Apple, and I worked there for 5.5 years, and my job there was to do business affairs. So I was doing legal work, and I knew deep down, like, I was not supposed to be doing that. That was not what my calling was. But I started to tune in, like, what actually am I being, like, called to? Like, what am I being drawn to in my life? And diversity and race and conversations around race was always a passion point for me. And I noticed in this ad agency, and I noticed in a lot of organizations, that, like, the turnover for people of color and the conversations around, particularly when the nation. Okay, good. I'm glad people can hear me now. Sorry, guys, that was really a fiasco. I just started noticing, like, what is the experience? What is the people of color, particularly the Black experience within organizations? Like, I've been in a lot of companies. I've been at rather well-known companies, and it's all the same. Like, the experience is one where it's not always the experience of being heard. It's not always the experience of being valued. There's often a high turnover. There's often just a lot of not a lot of room for self-expression. And so when I was at this ad agency, I just decided on my own, along with my now business partner and a few other people, like, what would it look like, and what would it actually start to look like, give a space for these voices, for this conversation. So while we were there, we actually created the first, and I actually still use it. It was an unconscious bias training. And to be honest with you, I actually hate the phrase unconscious bias. It just doesn't do what this is any justice. Like, it's a very watered down phrase of what it is. It's racism. It's like, we just need to say what it is. I think unconscious bias became a phrase that people were a lot more comfortable with. It felt lighter, it felt softer for people, especially within organizations where they didn't want to get too political. It felt like that was really a phrase that people could be down with. So whatever, we created this training. It wasn't my main job, it wasn't my business partner's main job, it wasn't what we were paid to do, but we were both passionate about it. And it made a difference. It really made a difference. And we also realized, after actually joining team, I was like, this is what I want to do with my life. This is what I'm supposed to be doing with my life. And unfortunately, they weren't really going to give the resources that we needed to really expand that program the way that we wanted to expand it. Hence, we both left that organization, and we started Safe Space, because we really saw the vision, we saw the future of, this is a conversation. The conversation around race is one that needs to be completed. We keep perpetuating it, and it keeps reliving itself in all these different ways, and it's just not getting complete. So what would it look like to have like true completion over this and acknowledge it, complete it, getting a new future around it, because we refuse to acknowledge it, so we keep reliving the trauma after year, decade after decade, century after century. So that's where Safe Space came about, and we, just a little insight, we decided to call it space instead of safe space, because a lot of people say like, oh, I just want a safe space to have this conversation. And for me and for Emily, it felt like, well, why do you need a safe space? Why can't any space, any place you be where you can have this conversation? It shouldn't be like quarantined. I hate to use that word, but it shouldn't be quarantined to a room with trainers. Like, you should be able to have this conversation wherever you go. You're not unsafe by having. So we said safe space so that you could say whatever, we could move this forward. So that's a little background on it.
And then you mentioned it's something you've cared about for a long time. Is there anything in particular about your own personal story or what led you to this commitment to the mission that you'd care to share with us?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm from Los Angeles, and I grew up in Ladera Heights, which is a predominantly Black neighborhood. It's historically Black. And I went to a very mixed elementary school just down the street. I was, not a minority. I was the majority. And when I went to middle school, my parents sent me to a very prestigious, very white, very affluent high school. It's called Harvard Westlake. It's in the Valley. And the culture shock that I had, and the like trauma that I had from feeling like, wow, I am so different. I have no idea how to fit in. I didn't fit in. But at the same time, as my socioeconomic status, my parents are middle to upper class. I really had this experience of like not being Black enough for the Black kids, whatever that means, and then not white enough for the white kids. So I always felt like I lived in these two worlds, always living with one foot in one door and one foot in the other, not quite sure where I was supposed to be. So even though I'm not technically biracial, like I'm seen as Black in America, it felt like a biracial experience because I just never felt complete in either realm. So it led me to really like start to look at, what does it mean to be Black? What is racy? What is this? And why does it have to, like, how does it identify with us? How does it create our worlds? How does it create our experience in life? And, I had a number of like true breakdowns around it, because it's difficult, especially when you're that young and you don't really know how to voice the experience that you're having. And then I went to college at Villanova. I don't know if anyone knows. It's in Pennsylvania. Also a predominantly white school, and that's when I kind of went from like trying to figure shit out, to like just being pissed. I really just the experience that I started to have was like, I'm very angry. I'm very angry that I'm having these experiences. I'm very angry being the only one. Why is this? Why? Just why? And I didn't hide it. And that was a breakthrough for me, because in the past, like, I really hid it because I didn't want to make people uncomfortable about how I felt about my pain. And I decided for my study abroad, very privileged experience, let's be clear about that. I understand I have my own privileges. I went to Africa. So I stayed there for 6 months, and I went to South Africa. And for those of you who are familiar, apartheid happened, and it's very real still, and the effects of apartheid are very real. However, they're very open about it, and about apartheid, they're very open about having these conversations. And for me, even though it's horrendous, the effects of it, the fact that they could talk about it so openly, and it wasn't like this hush thing, like, oh my God, there's racism, was an experience that I had never had before. And it was an experience of like, wow, that's what it could look like to be open about the trauma, and open about what isn't working, or open about what happened and what they did. And so when I got back to America, I was like, you know what, like, that's how I want to be. I want to be that open about where we've been, where we've come from, and the impacts that it's had on all of us, really. So that's kind of what defined my my foundation with this. with this work. So it's very personal. It's very personal. I think we often teach what we're meant to heal. So I think that definitely plays a part in this.
Yeah, I think I think we've all kind of had a lot of our memories or traumas like kind of reactivated lately. You know, I think it would be hard pressed to find somebody that has not had some sort of experience of racism like that. Like I think once you get to a certain age and your awareness is a little more alert for these kind of things, yeah, we start to see it. It can't go in ignorance for too long. Although, you know, I might be surprised in that too. Who knows? But let's talk about your company specifics a little bit. Like how do you start? If you're coming into a company and you're going to initiate conversations like this one, or however you do them, what's the beginning point? What's the takeoff point to establish that?
Well, it's interesting now because I don't want to say this. So I think in the past, the first year and a half that Emily and I were running Safe Space, and we were doing workshops. We were doing this for all different size companies, for big companies, for small, multiple day things, and it always revolved around. We never called it unconscious bias. We always tried to call it what it was, a diversity training, but we are going to be talking a lot about race because that seems to be the one area. They're okay to talk about, gender differences or even LGBTQIA. However, with race, it's always like, oh my God, I can't go there. So ours were always based off like this is not a training. This is a conversation. A training is some sort of education, and what we're here to do is talk about what's being said and not being said in the room. And so we're trained facilitators around that. So we pick up on the nonverbal cues a lot of the time when there's crossed arms, or when people are not making eye contact, or they're looking away when someone says. It's a facilitated and guided conversation, and particularly around the emotions. We try to get into like the defensiveness that often comes up, the sadness, the grief, the guilt. And actually at the beginning of this year, Emily and I, we've done this huge training. I don't have children and I haven't been pregnant, but we felt like we had given birth. Like we were exhausted.
Yeah.
Because it was a massive undertaking. These trainings that we had done, we're like, this isn't full. And a lot of people think that you can just do a one-time thing and like that's it. Like that's the training thing, and that's not what it takes. This is lifelong work. And for a company to see transformation, it takes ongoing commitment. I mean, you guys know, like team, it's a year or 2 years. It takes a long time to undo what we've.
Yeah, yeah, I mean, you have to catch yourself all the time. I mean, we're as a human. I mean, it's funny that you're like, we talk to people about uncrossing their arms, and I'm like here like this.
She literally just uncrossed her arms when you said that.
I'm safe,
Yeah, it's just, it's just noticing.
Yeah.
We just notice.
Yeah.
The crossed arms is always a critical. I mean, that you can just use that in everyday communication, but yeah. So we just came to this realization. We're like, wow, this is not sustainable for us.
Yeah.
Bring us in every month. Well, you have people who are coming and going. A lot of times D&I budgets to go. They're often not given a lot. So we're like, this isn't going to fulfill on the big impact that we see possible. So we decided actually that we were going to take things virtual and start creating leaders. Hit every company. We can't train every single office and organization. So what we realized was like, wow, what would it look like for us organization just happen, who are trying to carry forth this work, will empower them, because a lot of times they don't have the resources, they have the code, they don't have the skill to have the conversations with leadership. You know, what does it look like to get a budget approved? What does it look like to have a conversation, to call something in? I don't like to say calling something out, calling something in. Like, listen, our Black employees, our Latino employees, like, they're really having a challenge. Like, you have to actually know how to have a conversation. And for a lot of people, it happens to fall on the shoulders of people of color who are carrying this work. So not only do you have hierarchy situations where you have to talk to a boss, it's often a racial dynamic of for talking to a white superior person, which inherently is like has background. You know, there's a lot of trauma there. So, you know, giving them the resources, giving them the coaching, giving them the guidance and the expertise to know like how to elevate and create and move your initiatives forward so that they have long lasting impact versus bringing in 2 trainers, you know, for 2 days and then leaving and piecing out and taking the breakthroughs with us. So we wanted to create a program where we were empowering those people so that they could have like evergreen work. So that's what we created actually right before COVID hit. We happened to move everything virtual. And on top of that, we also created an executive, I don't say allyship, I say accomplice, because allyship seems a little passive. So I say accomplice because there's action. But we have an executive accomplice series program. So the leaders and the executives within organizations have the opportunity to work with us and safe space coaches to go through the book. So let's talk about race and understand how do we implement these conversations and these breakthroughs into our actual organization, because you can have 90% of your organization doing this work, but if your leadership is just pieced out, then, you know, you're kind of SOL.
It reminds me of a Jim Rohn quote that says you're the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with. And, you know, if we think about, especially Americans being, I mean, we are working. Everybody is at work all the time. And if you don't have a community that is like pulling for equality or pulling for communication, there's no way that it will be sustainable after you guys leave. There's just no way. So this new method to work with CEOs, like, wow, or what do you call them again? Green leaf.
Evergreen.
Evergreen.
Oh, I was saying evergreen, like it's ongoing. Like it's not, you know, a one-time training. It's like training and supporting people within the company so that it keeps going. You know, it doesn't just stop with one thing. But you bring up a good point, because that's our whole thing is like a lot of companies are like, oh, we don't want to talk about race. We don't want to talk about racism. It's too political. And it's like, you spend 90% of your time, I would say, with the people that you work with. So the conversations that are quote unquote happening out there, that's the same thing as happening within those walls. So it's a disservice and actually just a lie to say that like those are conversations for outside of the walls. And also like what makes human life political? I've never, and when it talks about Black lives and when it talks about race, somehow it turns political, but anything else, you know, so like that's what we got to call it. You know, we have to call that in. So having those conversations, that's what we say. Like, you don't have to be a company that is curing cancer or like, you know, trying to fix all the environmental issues. You could make a difference by shifting your internal culture, because organizations are microcosms of society. So if you can start shifting organizations and the culture there, then you inherently start shifting the conversation beyond those walls.
I love what you're saying, because, you know, we have people very excited right now protesting. I mean, to see Los Angeles, I saw a video yesterday.
Totally amazing.
Just
Hollywood Boulevard.
I mean, it was unbelievable to see people, whether they know exactly what they're doing or not, that they're at least being like influenced right now and allowing themselves to let people speak for the first time. I mean, Jones and I were listening to a woman in the community share about the white privilege in terms of going to the bank and getting a loan. And, you know, these are things that I never thought about before, about, wow, I can't believe that. Is that even true? Like, I just didn't know. But what I'm trying to say is that right now we're are like we're opening the rock and seeing what's underneath. We're like seeing something in a big way, but how do we make this sustainable? And how is it not just be, like what you were saying, like giving birth to a whole new society, but one that is actually like a long-term child that's like healthy. I think it really starts in the workplace. It starts in our communities, that we look to leadership. Like you are looking to your boss and your CEOs for where you're going with your life. And I think that this is where it's so important that these practices are, a green leaf practice, that they're happening all the time. So this is really incredible to have safe space on to share with our community that, this is where we need to go and where we need to keep the conversation alive. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Yeah. It's pretty.
Yeah. I would say also it's like everyone's a leader in this. It's I think people look to, quote unquote, aren't here to, I'm just, and leadership is, I'll just leave it at there. It just isn't. So, what does it look like for you to be a leader? And I think for the different groups of people, whether you're Black, whether you're a non-Black person of color, whether you're white, that leadership looks different. And for, white identifying folks, it means educating. It means looking at works that have been created for decades, that have been around for, hundreds of years, that have been talking about this for hundreds of years, voices that have been saying this for, since the beginning of slavery. And for Black folk, it's like, how do we take care of ourselves during this? Like, how do we actually take care of our bodies and our souls so that we can start to have the conversations that we need to have, or make the kinds of moves that we need to make that move this forward. And people of color, it's like, well, that's always a very interesting place, because they themselves are oppressed in a lot of ways, but they are also not Black, so they don't fully have the Black experience of oppression. So, it's very nuanced depending on how you identify. And I think leadership looks different in every way, but I think owning that is a huge part of it, and absolutely naming it.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, like what? Let's talk about for a second some breakthroughs that are possible or that you've witnessed as a part of these conversations that you've led. What are some specific things that you've been inspired by, as far as the results that you've seen?
Well, I would say that, first and foremost, I think the fact that companies are even, I hate to say this, but 2 months ago, companies didn't have budgets for diversity and inclusion, and now suddenly they do. And it's amazing. It's a little frustrating, I have to say, but it's also amazing. Like, I get it. So I think that's one breakthrough, is the fact that people, you can't do anything without money. You can't. That's what makes this happen. And so to have budgets in place where you can bring organizations like Safe Space or all these other companies that are doing this work, that in itself is a breakthrough. The fact that we're able to say racism, the fact that we're able to say white supremacy, the fact that we're able to say privilege, these things are a breakthrough, because before it was hushed, or it was, like I said, unconscious bias, or, whatever, like discrimination. Like, we need to call it as it is. And I think that is a massive breakthrough that we're happening right now. Like, I call it the sacred purge, honestly. I'm like, we're just purging. Wow. So that's in really a general,
actually, it's really
right. I'm like, this isn't bad.
Yeah,
it's not bad what's happening. I think that's a big context paradigm shift for people. I'm like, okay, if you were to look ahead 50 years and you were to see this beautiful vision of equality and peace and all the stuff we talk about, and you look ahead and you look, wow, what did it take to get there? This is just a milestone in that. We had to go through this in order to get to that, because before we've just been stepping over stuff. We've been pretending that we're down with, Black people, and like, we're not racist. We don't have 400 years of slavery that's still happening. But now we're calling it. I'm like, this is what healing looks like. And I think that's what Emily and I and everyone else at Safe Space tries to enact in any of our trainings or our programs is like, it is a healing. We really do try to see it as a sacred space. And so in these programs, we just completed actually our diversity inclusion change agents course, and that's empowering the change agents within organizations who are leading this work. And we've had one woman actually, like, her job was split in this, and now she's doing it full time because the organization has seen how much this has made a difference.
Wow.
And how empowered she is around it. So now they've made a full time role for it. We have a lot of them are sending their leadership into our programs. They've had speakers come in, they've had new trainings come in. So, I think the breakthrough for us is that these leaders are emerging leadership within this and owning it. And that's our whole point, is like, we don't want to own it. We're not here to own anything. We're here to lead, to help leaders create and elevate and express themselves through this work. And I think that's exactly what is showing now.
Fantastic.
So how could someone in the public bring Safe Space into their office or into their organization? What's the best method to bring you guys in?
We are very busy because the world is now ready to talk. And but we're on Instagram, emailing us. I think the best is always through our website. We have a whole intake form actually that we have people fill out before they reach out to us, so that we understand, like, where are you at in what's your company already done, what's the future that you're trying to create. A lot of people, and you know what, I want to just point that out, that's actually a huge thing that people are not clear on. And I think that's what's showing up right now, is that we're trying to fix this problem, right? And we need to address what's not working. However, we are not clear on the vision or the future that we need to actually just keep any roadmap of, like, well, what do we want to see more of? And that's what Emily and I are always asking. Well, what do we want to see more of, while still having and addressing these conversations that obviously haven't been completed yet. So part of this journey is helping companies and individuals understand, like, what does the future look like? What do you want to see? And how do your actions now with us lead to that future, so that they can own it, and not get stuck in the cycle of, like, well, we have to fix it. We got to fix this problem.
Well said.
Yeah.
Is there anything else you want to say before we?
Yeah, I mean, we wanted to leave a large portion of this, like, video, this talk, this call, whatever this is, to also address anything that people are bringing up. And I don't know if you have been collecting those. But we want to open that up to the people that are now watching and listening. If there's anything specific, question or comment, that you can send us and participate. We'd love to have you participate. So
you're gonna see so many people like saying hi and thumbs up, and we're from Houston or we're from here. It's just really, really empowering. And I know that people can take this message. You can forward the message to your friends. You can review the message. Let me see. So proud of you guys. Your teamwork, go team. Here's a question from Huertamia. I hope I didn't say that incorrectly. Bianca, what do you recommend for the people that attend the training to continue to develop themselves about what they learned?
Well, it's interesting because in the past, like, we've done trainings. We don't necessarily focus on trainings. We have started doing listening sessions for companies for the next couple of weeks, as they deal with the impact of George Floyd and all their countless murders, Black men and women. And so, that's needed definitely facilitation. But what's come out of that, so in those, I wouldn't even call them trainings, honestly, because they're conversations. And in those conversations that we've done, we've actually split out the groups within companies. So we've split them out between Black, non-Black people of color, and we have facilitators facilitating conversations between all those groups. So I would say, like, for each group, it's very different. You know, for the white identifying group, what there is to learn and continue to learn is endless. I think
Bianca.
Both maybe posted some. I think I sent a post around. Did I lose you guys?
Yeah, for
almost,
a second.
but it's okay. We're back.
Yeah, we got the spinning wheel of death for just a moment, and now you're back. So can you actually just repeat what you just said? Because I have a feeling other people probably didn't hear it as well.
Okay. Where did you guys stop hearing?
Oh, gosh. Well, you mentioned that it's not a training, it's a conversation. And then I think after that, it's worth repeating.
Okay. And you guys can hear me okay now?
Yes.
Yes.
I was just saying that it's a conversation and how we run those conversations, because they're definitely not trainings. Other companies do actual educational trainings. Emily and I are, and at Safe Space in general, we've been very clear, like, we don't do education. Many men and women before us have done incredible amounts of research and work around educating people around race. We are not the ones to do that. We're here to have conversations about what is not being said and being said in rooms, and open the door to further trainings and to, like, our own programs. So while we've had these kind of listening sessions with organizations, I was saying that we actually separate people within the organization into the Black, non-Black, people of color, and white, so that we can have 3 separate conversations specifically around George Floyd, what's showing up around, what do people need as we go through and actually come to terms with police brutality, as we come to terms with the Black and brown bodies that are consistently murdered and have been murdered for decades now. How do we actually address that within an organization? And how do we have a conversation that actually will, like, empower people to move this forward and not be scared to have the conversation? So that looks very different depending on what group you're in. Like, the Black identifying group, what they need is very different than what a white identifying group needs. You know, a lot of times, and I think I've said this before, is that trainings often we find rely on using Black people's emotions and their experiences to educate white people. So we really try to not have that be the case, and have Black voices be elevated, no doubt, and expressed, but not at the expense of having to teach or educate anyone. So I know the question was, like, what can I do, like, after a training? And I think what there is like, it just depends on where you are. Like, it's a very broad question. Because how you identify where you are in your journey, it makes all the difference. I would say, though, that educating yourself and having conversations with the people in your life, if you are white identifying or non-Black person of color, I would say the education piece and voting, and not just voting for the sake of voting, like actually being very clear about what you're voting for, doing this, and I can send through as well what that looks like. As well as talking to family members and friends who are uncomfortable around this, because that's what happens. The Amy Coopers lead to the George Floyds. And then, like, I know a lot of people have said that, but it's true. It's like those kind of, like, seemingly rude things to say that happen actually lead to the deaths of Black and brown bodies. So I would say the conversational piece is the learning and the education.
You know, I'm really glad you mentioned voting, because you know, it's so imperative that people vote. I don't want to just be like plugging this, but vote, people vote. Go to your ballots, read about the people that are, you know, that are making a difference right now. Seattle is a great example of a city who has federal court orders to restrain from violent like choke holding of citizens. They have, like, each state has different policies, and we just need to make sure that as a nation we can start to get under the same policies that really support people of all races, and that we have our democracy really working for the people. So please, God, vote, 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 vote.
Well, that being said, it's not just about the voting.
It's about the
your
education.
Your father pointed out, when you register to vote, you are entered into the pool of people that are selected for juries.
Yes.
And so to have people represented of the community in the juries, you have to be a registered voter in order to actually participate in that system. So for people of color, or for anybody, if you are wanting to represent your community, yes, you may be selected to be on jury duty. That might suck for the day or whatever, but what you're doing as a service to your community is actually equated with voting in the election. I would say.
We have a lot more questions, but I thank you guys for just sending so much love and saying people are just pouring out love, saying they're proud of this conversation, they're grateful for this conversation, they're learning so much. Rachel says it seems that this is company focused, which is great, but what are the recommendations for individuals who are self-employed to educate themselves as well?
You already addressed the education piece, but just individuals over companies, as far as what it is that your company does. Is there an individual application outside of the corporate space, I guess is how I'm hearing that question.
There's a key difference, right? Like education. Can you guys hear me okay, by the way?
Yeah, no, we can, yeah.
Okay. The education piece, I think, again, like there's literally endless resources to educate on, depending on, like, again, where you are and how you identify. I think I sent you both, as I sent it to you. One of my close friends is she's a thought leader, she's an activist, and she made a list literally of what you can listen to, what you can watch. Safe Space also has a newsletter that goes out every month around what you can read, watch, listen, support, and engage with. So that always has resources. But I think in terms of educating yourself, like, the books are endless. They really are. And for our programs, they can be for individuals as well. It just depends on what exactly the impact that you're trying to make. So we do have a program that's for individuals, but it is more around, like, are you the individual who's trying to bring forth the initiatives? Are you the individual who's trying to elevate or create or have programming within your organization? And your organization might be your own company, so it can be for individuals in that sense.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I think this is a great place to complete the conversation and just acknowledge everybody who stayed on with us for the last hour, to lock arms in creating a better future and to really learn about what opportunities are there for what you can share within your own organization or your employer's organization. Please check out www.say-space.com. We put it in the feed. And thank you, Bianca, for sharing so much about your history, your life, your perspective. You've been all over the world. You really have an empathy for all people, and I really feel honored to have gotten to hear more about what you're up to and the impact you're making. And I'm just super grateful to share that with my community and Jones's community. Is there anything you want to say?
Oh, yeah. You hit the grateful piece. Yeah, we're definitely just grateful to be related to you, and having conversations like this are really important personally, but then also just as far as offering resources for people, of like, okay, what can I do? What can we do? Have conversations like this, like talk to the people in your community, like find out what they're up to and what's making them tick. And that was really valuable for me to do with you today, Bianca.
Yeah,
so thanks for
I can
joining
also
us.
send you guys. I can send you both some amazing people to follow.
Yeah.
Please.
People aren't already that are giving daily tips, daily, like, you know, it's emotional labor. So it is like this conversation for a lot of people. It's very emotional, and it does require a lot of energy. And there's amazing people out there who put together posts that list out very explicitly, like, this is what you can read if this is where you're at, or this is what you can watch. So I can definitely send through the people who are on the ground, who are doing the work, and who are being so gracious enough to put it out there for everyone as well.
Okay. Yeah, I'll be happy to share that over my feed and
That'd be really helpful.
and post. I'm gonna post this on the IGTV.
Yes.
That's terrible with technology. I'm gonna post it so this is live. You can share it with people. Yeah. So thank you so much. Thank you. And yeah.
I mean, as far as
Thank you both.
other things, like, we'll be back. We will probably do more videos like this, more posts like this, you know, just to keep the conversation alive, evergreen, as we called it. I like that.
Yes.
Anything
And yeah,
else?
please make sure to. No, just, you know, I would say a big thing for people on Instagram, I see a few people, is like, just diversify your feed. You know, like, that's the biggest thing that you can also be doing right now, is making sure that you're following the types of people who are laying the groundwork and who've been laying the groundwork for decades, literally decades, and who, you know, they have the answers. They have the answers. They're not hard to find. So I can, like I said, just diversify your news feed. You know, ingest all the information you can and have the conversations. And I appreciate this conversation. So thank you both.
Awesome. Okay. That's our time.
All right, guys.
We'll see you all soon.
All right.
Love
Have a
you.
good night.
Lots of love.
Thank you, everyone who joined.
Likewise.
All right. Goodbye. How do I end this, actually? Do I just close
I think
out?
we are ending
I
it.
think we will end it.
Somehow.
Okay, ending. Bye-bye.
Okay, bye-bye.